We're live and the music isn't playing. What's going on?
I'm guessing the intro wasn't set up correctly, so why don't we just go ahead and jump right into it?
Yeah, hold on. Intro's coming. What's up, everybody? I'm Joe Carlton here with Rick Brusuelas, and we host the Thursday Checkdown. There is never an off-season in fantasy football, and each week our show brings you talented guests to help you, the fantasy football manager, be more successful while also having fun. Tonight's special guest is Pierre Wilson. Welcome, Pierre. Thank you for being here tonight. How are you this evening?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. You said talented guest. I don't know if I'm in the right place. Like, got me on the right show here. I appreciate you having me on.
You're going to be carrying the show for us tonight, Pierre. So,
all right, no pressure. We'll see what happens.
No pressure.
Nice. All right, so Pierre, before we get into fantasy football talk, one thing we like to do on the Thursday Checkdown is learn a little bit about you. So, Rick, you want to start that off?
So, Pierre, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, like where you live, what you do, both inside fantasy football and maybe outside fantasy football, your family, anything else you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Pierre Wilson, I'm in Indiana, in the old Midwest, full of corn and tornadoes, but big sports guy. Family's always been sports. I've had, uncles win College World Series in baseball at Wichita State. Had some play Illinois. Had an uncle at Illinois who played with Jeff George and Jack Trudeau, who I got to meet. George was kind of rude, but I mean, what are you going to do there? From a personal standpoint, I work in healthcare, so I'm a supervisor for some pharmacy services that I do for Cardinal Health. And I just been playing fantasy football, for a few bit now. I think we'll get into that, but love it. I'm more on the DFS side myself. I'm a big daily fantasy sports guy. Started on Draft Street, which a lot of people aren't familiar with. Now it's DraftKings who actually brought them out, but I just enjoy sports, all of them. A big, kind of heartbroken for the Pacers, even in basketball. I know we're not talking basketball, but the Halliburton injury kind of took my soul from my body in Game 7 of the finals, but I'm surviving.
And when did you start playing fantasy football? Or how long have you been playing?
I remember this. I think it's 2004. And I know this because I'm a Colts guy being in Indy. And I got made fun of because I took Peyton Manning, first pick overall. And he broke the touchdown record that year. I had him, I had Harrison, and Reggie Wayne. I just loaded up on Colts. I think I had Ahman Green as like a running back. But that was kind of my first start. And I won it. So I'm like, oh, this is easy. I'm going to crush it. Has not been the case since all the time, but really big year 2004 thanks to Peyton Manning and the guys.
Awesome. So you mentioned you love DFS. As far as the redraft and dynasty, do you dabble in any of these?
I do. Redraft, a lot of stuff just with family and friends. I run a couple as a commissioner there through ESPN. They're not really familiar with Sleeper and NFL and some of those apps when it comes to family and friends, so I take it easy on them. Dynasty, I got one dynasty. Rick's in there with me. It's a tougher one. I'm not used to. Didn't draft well, and it's really hard to kind of make up ground when you don't draft well with that core, that base. I got a keeper league that I do, and then I've kind of mostly done best ball since I'm so focused on DFS. It's good to just set it and forget about it, which best ball allows you to do, versus setting a bunch of different lineups through the week. So
nice. That seems to be a popular combination these days: best ball and DFS.
I think it's growing.
For those who don't want to get too deep in the weeds with redraft managed teams.
It could be a lot. It could be a lot, especially towards the end of the week once you start getting news that comes out. You're scrambling to make sure you got lineups set everywhere. It's chaotic.
Nice. All right. So how many managed teams are you looking at? Just a couple, right?
I think I got six total that I actually have to go in, set lineups for week over week.
A normal amount, as we would say. Six is like a normal amount. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people go crazy. Like you got 50 plus. I don't know how they do it.
I'm not. Yeah. I don't. I think I might be approaching 30 this year.
Oh my goodness.
Crazy, because the most I did before that was 18. So.
What yourself? Do you dabble in one in particular? Redraft, dynasty? What do you usually dabble in?
So Rick got me in doing charity leagues this year, so I added a bunch of a handful, not a bunch, but a handful of charity leagues. Mm-hmm. I do usually have about 10 high stakes teams on the NFFC platform.
Okay.
This year 10. Usually it's like around 5 or 6, but this year I decided to double up a little bit and try to take a shot at it this year with all the prep I've been doing. I've been doing the content on the show. So I figure if I'm a well-oiled machine since January, let's double up the teams and try to go for the big ones. So that's what I'm doing.
All right, best of luck. That's kind of the DFS draw too. You're just on a different platform, but it's the same type of draw.
Yeah. So, and then I have, the TSA wants to do a listener league, a listener dynasty league. I have 3 dynasty teams. Then there's a TSA expert league. There's all these leagues that TSA's adding. So that's like another 5. So yeah. And then I do best ball too. I've done like probably close to 50 best ball drafts. Nothing major. $2, $5, $3, $10. Yeah, nothing major.
You got to take a shot at the big ones, right? The 2025. You got to take a couple of shots at those, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's managed teams is going to be scary come September for me.
It sounds like it. Rick, where are you at with those?
Oh, I'm not allowed to say. My watching. Let's just say I play in those leagues. I'm in 13 or 14 charity leagues. I also in a bunch of dynasty leagues, including the league that you and I are in. And that's a fun league because, there's so many interesting, people that are involved in that faith and fantasy league. It's great to, interact with them both on the Twitter chat as well as, in the league itself. I'm in some IDP, which I like a lot. Okay. Really starting to like IDP. Probably is my favorite. So I'm in 5 or 6 of those.
Really?
I'm in 2 Devi leagues. First year I've tried doing Devi leagues, and that's interesting and more challenging because now all of a sudden you're worrying about college players and ones that might develop. A lot of people know about Arch Manning, but Lenore Sellers is the quarterback that I drafted because he might be the next Lamar Jackson. We'll hope, So anyway, it's a lot of fun doing some of these other types of leagues. I've not done DFS, so when we get into that part of the show, I'm going to be all ears and taking notes because I've always been a little timid when it came to, the money aspect of DFS leagues and, Joe's high stake leagues. I get a little bit like, a $25 or $30 league is probably where I start getting a little bit out of my range. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun doing that. You're also involved in the content side, and you're involved with Fantasy Impact Today. Can you tell us about that and what you do there, and tell us a little bit more about Fantasy Impact Today?
Yeah, so Fantasy Impact Today is like a network. We have a few shows running with that program. My host over there is Wes Easley, who's also in our Faith and Fantasy Football chat on Twitter. There are our show's DFS Dreamers. So we go on week by week and just give some tips and tricks, give some plays from a DraftKings standpoint on DFS. Him and JB Barry, I'm not sure if you're familiar with JB Barry. Wes and JB had a Fantasy Magnets that kind of kicked off the Fantasy Impact Today network. And then we talked about charity. And there's one by Rob Norton that actually gets done over there too called the Baby Bowl. not sure if you partake in that, but that's a part of the Fantasy Impact Today network as well. And that's kind of with a DFS tied to it. It's in MFL. You're not putting money in it, but it's basically like an eliminator league where you can play one player. That's it for the whole season. So you get one quarterback, couple running backs, couple receivers that you got to build each week, but they're one and done. Nice. So once you play them, you can't play them again the rest of the season. And, there's I think half goes to March of Dimes and the other half's kind of a payout structure there with Rob Norton on the Fantasy Impact Today network too.
That sounds cool. Now you're also, you produce Finding Faith podcast. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I'm a man of faith. I consider myself a Christian there. And I have a podcast with my wife that we do, as well as with Wes, who I do my DFS Dreamers with. And it's called Finding Faith, Losing Sleep. And the thought process behind that name was really some of the conversations that you won't hear in church. Like you won't hear pastors wanting to have. And it's just some of the tough questions that keep you awake at night when it comes to the Bible, when it comes to your faith and things along those lines. So we just try to have like a small little life group type of conversation over some cultural topics, over topics in the Bible, and just kind of talk through differing opinions and show that we can still get along even though we disagree with things at the end of the day when it comes to our faith and just things along those lines.
And so cool with the small group idea. Many of us are associated with very large churches, and you don't get a chance to build those personal relationships as much, which then leads to the concept of small groups. But the fact that you're doing it as a virtual is kind of interesting, and I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, please do. We've had a decent people. I didn't think people would listen, honestly. I was like, I don't think anybody's going to listen to this, but it was a passion we had. My wife was actually diagnosed with stage 3 metastatic melanoma back in 2021. Mm-hmm. She's good now. She's in the clear, but, going through that, tough conversations have to be had when you're talking about stage 3 cancer, what's next. And so we got behind a microphone and kind of talked through those to see if some of those conversations would help out other people that were kind of dealing with some of those cancer battles. And it just kind of took off after that to dive into more.
And why bad things happen to good people, and how to deal with it. That sounds like something that's all of us could really use. So
we have an episode specifically that talks about that topic.
And when did you decide to get involved in the fantasy industry as a content creator with their fantasy leagues?
It probably would have been when I think a lot of people did when the pandemic took place. Mm-hmm. So a lot of social media, just trying to pass the time, and football thankfully was one of the sports that was able to do the social distancing, play without fans, and kind of stay alive because the NBA shut down because Rudy Gobert was an idiot, and some other things that took place. And Wes just reached out to me. So playing DFS, I was in a habit of posting a bunch of my winnings and screenshots like that. I don't do that anymore. I've kind of got humbled a little bit with some of those things, but he reached out. I was like, hey, would you want to do a podcast and kind of talk through some DFS stuff? And I'm like, sure. And it's honestly opened doors. That was right around my first Scott Fish time, which I know we'll get into, but it just continued to open doors. I've been on different shows and, met a lot of different people, and it's kind of opened up again during the pandemic when everything else was shut down. I think podcasting kind of took off for a lot of people.
Nice. I love hearing all those stories. During that pandemic year, my life was hectic. My mom, she fell down the cellar stairs. She had to have brain surgery. She wasn't good. She never recovered from it. They put her in a nursing home. I wasn't focused on fantasy football that year. My wife was like, are you even going to do a draft this year? And I was like, I don't know. I don't think so. And then as August went on, of course, I was like, I'm going to do one. And I did one, just one team. I had one team that year. And it was an awful draft. I didn't prep properly. I wasn't deep diving. I just wasn't involved. It was a hectic year. I was an essential worker, working, pushing water product for the grocery stores. So I was focusing in on that. It wasn't a good year for me for fantasy football. So when I hear, that you guys were taking advantage of all the free time and the ones who were focused, it kind of makes me feel pretty good. Makes me feel better about missing that year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I was at a brick and mortar location initially working myself, and we all got transitioned to at home at that time. So it really just helped because you get stir crazy. You don't realize like how nice it is to just go outside and interact and be with people until you've been in your house all day, every day, surrounded by your loved ones. You love them, but you even need a break from them every once in a while. And that was kind of an escape, at least for me, to just get behind a microphone, talk about something I love, and kind of forget about the chaos in my house and obviously the chaos that was going on in the world at that time.
Yeah. It's funny because, of course, during COVID, lots of things shut down. And the fact that I had a little bit of knowledge of technology and a little bit of knowledge of Zoom, started doing a lot of Zoom calls for small groups and men's groups. And, one made me feel a lot more comfortable talking in front of a microphone or in front of a camera. I'll be honest, I've always felt a little timid about that. I couldn't stand up on stage in front of people and talk, but the fact that I could pretend it was only me and whoever was looking at me through the camera made it seem like it was more of a small conversation and gave me a lot more confidence to be able to do that. You've also been involved in the Scott Fish Bowl. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, actually wearing a shirt from last year.
There
we go.
Right?
Was that? Yeah, last year's.
Yeah, last year.
First one was 10 for me. So again, kind of similar, right around that same time. I was in the Barbie division. It was just when I didn't have many people. I met some of my closest fantasy friends in that division that first year. Didn't know what I was doing. Like, I had no idea. I knew it was a big ordeal. I knew it was for charity, so I love that aspect. But to me at the time, like, all scoring was still kind of similar. And that was not the case. That was not the case. Even then, it wasn't the case. And I was like, why are these people scoring so many points? Like, I had this and it was different.
Kick returners and punt returners last year. Yeah.
And then there was the turnovers and stuff. There's more deductions from there at certain times, but I hadn't done a super flex up until then either. So I'm like, why is everybody taking all these quarterbacks so early? And then I got stuck with like Phillip Rivers, who was on the coast that year, and he had a decent year, but I mean, he was at the end of his career that year. And I'm like, I gotta start paying attention to what's going on in these. But yeah, I've been in it since 10, and I've enjoyed it. Different leagues, different people, really great, wonderful community. Folks I didn't even know about that I know about now. I saw Bill was in here. I've met Bill, and it's just been really awesome ever since. And big shout out to Scott for kind of bringing so many of us together.
Yeah. And with really no motivation as far as winning a fantasy football, you know what I mean? Like, there's no monetary motivation is what I meant. It's like everybody getting together and thousands of people showing up to their draft and taking it seriously, like it is, like there is money involved. That I think is amazing. There's no monetary value there, and so many people commit to it. Like that I find amazing.
I agree. How about yourselves? Where are we at from a Scott Fish Bowl? How many years have we done it?
3. I've been in 3 of them. I've done a live draft all 3 times at Boston, and it's been a great time all 3 times.
And I've done it since 11, and have had varying. In my first year, I was just horrible. I was just, much like you said, trying to adapt to these unique scoring systems, and
he does a great job every year with that scoring system. So I look forward to
makes it so much fun. Yeah. And but then the last, since 12, I think I've been in the playoffs. Last year, I was particularly lucky, and in fact, Rate My League this year even commented about my last year because they didn't think I did very well this year. But I was in like the top 3% in last year. So I'm like middle of the pack this year. It's, and it's fun. The Rate My Leagues are always fun. I mean, they're intended to be fun. Yeah.
I started off 7-1 last year, and I did not make the playoffs. Neighbors got hurt. Cup got hurt. I had so many injuries. I think I had A-Chain who got banged up some. I was like, what is happening? It was tough. I got hit hard.
And I got lucky because, I had Baker Mayfield as my second quarterback.
Oh, that's huge.
He was like the third or fourth best quarterback last year. And I got lucky late in the draft, and I drafted this guy named Bucky Irving. And so it was just like, between the two of them, I was just getting like just extra points that weren't expected. In fact, I think Baker was better than my first quarterback because I did draft Hurts in the first round, and he didn't do as well. But yeah, this year, in fact, what you're playing this year again, I'm sure. So
Yes.
What is your current division? Did you draft live?
I did live. I was at Cincinnati, the Cincinnati live draft.
With John Bosch,
Yeah, Bosch, great guy.
And Wise was there, right? Sam was there, right?
And then Bill does a lot for Cincinnati too, Underwood, who popped in the chat there. So really fun. It was at the fouling warehouse. So I got to throw around. It's like the football bowling. Maybe it's called fouling. I call it
they call it fouling or bowling. Yeah.
I kind of hurt my shoulder there, but Indiana Fever division. So go Fever, go Caitlin Clark. Again, I'm in Indiana, and this is the most happy I've been with a team I've drafted in the Scott Fish Bowl. So we'll see how that plays out. But folks were sliding down the board. I didn't expect to slide down the board to the point I had to check the scoring settings. I'm like, did I read this right? Like, is this the right scoring? Because why are these people following me? So I'm excited. We'll see what happens.
I wish I would have talked with you before the draft. In fact, I'll probably double back and say, what's your team look like? Because I'm not confident at all. And of course, reading the Rate My League made me even less confident. It was so different this year.
Last year, Rate My League had me at ranked 12th, and I went 3 weeks deep into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And this year they got me ranked 11th, and I absolutely love my team. I thought I killed the draft, so we'll see. like you said,
what slots did you have?
I had the 4 spot this year.
Okay. Rick, were you 3 like me?
I was 3 like you because we were both in the 3s with Joe Frick. Yeah.
So we're both at the beginning. I'm curious what your strategies were now.
Well, I got lucky because the first pick in my draft was A-Chain, and then got followed up with the next guy hit Josh Allen, so I was able to draft Bijan.
That works out well. So your first pick was good. I'm wondering where you got nervous at there.
Well, they didn't like the fact I waited on quarterback because my quarterbacks are Lawrence. Bryce Young.
I was just going to say they still categorize positions, which positional advantage means nothing in this contest.
Yeah. And that was hard for me to not draft because my normal is to draft quarterbacks in the first round. I tend to try to always do the standard super flex, which is, you have to have both your quarterbacks by the 4th round or you're in trouble. This time I waited, and so we'll see.
So what did you do, Pierre? Did you go running back or wide receiver heavy?
I went running back heavy. I started Gibbs.
Nice.
McCaffrey fell to me, so that was one where I'm like, how is this happening? So I got Gibbs, McCaffrey, Omarion Hampton, and Chase Brown were my first 4 picks.
Nice. I love that. That's a great start.
Well, a lot of people went receiver, which I didn't.
Yeah, this is my favorite part about the scoring system. Every year the scoring system comes out, and every year we get 2 or even 3 different points of view on how, and it shows in the draft results because every draft is different. You see some teams start with like 7. They do the 7 wide receivers, 1 quarterback. Then you see some go like 15 running backs deep, and then you see some with no quarterback, which doesn't I think you need at least 1, in my opinion. You can get away with 1, but two is probably safe. But It's just that's my favorite. Like I love that everybody prepares it differently. Everybody sees it differently. There's 2 or 3 different ways to see it.
Yeah, and I did try to go running back heavy too. I think we're probably in the chat. We were probably, all kind of like coming up with what we thought the best approach would be. I did get Drake London and George Kittle, but after that, I just kind of focused on running back, and so getting Caleb Johnson, middle, because you of course you do the first 10 picks live, and so I think around the 5th and 6th I got Caleb. I got another running back, same kind of level, because I was always looking for guys that had a lot of use, a lot of production, that they were going to be able to be counted on. I made a couple bad picks. I drafted Freiermuth, which then the next day, Miami trades Jonnu Smith to Pittsburgh and just about destroyed.
It's to be determined. We'll see. I know Arthur Smith's a big Johnny guy, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Talking about running him. He had him in the backfield in practice this week. I was like, oh no, what's going on?
This is why I'm out on DK Metcalf, because DK ain't going to get alpha targets, I don't think.
I don't know. Rodgers has always kind of been a number 1 receiver guy. Obviously, Devontae in Green Bay, but even Garrett Wilson.
But he kind of killed Garrett Wilson, like his ceiling. He was consistent, but his ceiling was like gone. There was no ceiling to Garrett Wilson last year.
Because Devontae came in, but before that, it felt like it was going to be Garrett Wilson until the Achilles happened, like week 1.
And then now this year, I think the offense as a whole is just a dumpster fire. To be honest with you,
that's fair.
Even Caleb Johnson, I saw a negative report today about his pass protection and his blocking. So
and Jalen Warren
you don't want to say, so that makes the running backs a little murky.
That's why they have Jonnu at fullback, right?
So and then you got Arthur Smith. Possibly is Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith going to be on the same page all year? Are they going to clash? Are they going to, who's the alpha play caller? You know what I mean?
I think Rodgers clashes with every coach. So.
Yeah. So that brings the question: is Will Howard going to be the starting quarterback for the Steelers in the second half of the season when, Rodgers either gets some sort of mystery injury or storms off with some problem? So I don't know.
They still got Rudolph too, don't they? Don't they still have Mason Rudolph?
Yeah, Mason Rudolph, which is likely to be their.
They're faithful to that guy, though. They are.
So you had mentioned Indianapolis, and of course, I'm guessing the Colts are your team.
They are. It's tough because we had such a good run with Peyton. Even though we got the 1 Super Bowl, like we knew we were going to be in the playoffs, we were going to have a shot. Then we luck out, we get Andrew Luck. And I'm like, this is great. And he retires. I don't think I've seen Colts fans as angry as when that happened. So that was during a preseason game. I think it was like the 3rd or 4th preseason game. He's on the sidelines. I'm watching from home, and I get the alert on my phone. Everything comes through, social media first now. And I'm like, well, this isn't real. They're not talking about it. Then all of a sudden, like,
this ain't real.
You got some news going on, and you see even fans start to look at their phones. You're like, oh crap, is this happening? And he gets booed off the field. And I think that was karma because we haven't been good really since. We had the one Phillip Rivers pandemic year where we got beat by the Bills in the first round. Since then, we've been quarterback shuffling with Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan, and it's next question.
And now you got Richardson.
You know how I found it's funny with the notification. I was on vacation in the mountains in New Hampshire, White Mountains, and so I wasn't getting no notification because there was no service. I literally the week before drafted him, and I pushed him up a round too. I think I took him in like the 3rd round of a redraft. And we get back to the hotel room. We're all exhausted from being out all day. I flip on the TV, the news, and it's the first thing that's on the bottom, going across the bottom of the ESPN thing. Andrew Luck breaking news. Andrew Luck retired. I'm like, what is going on right now? Did he really retire? Like, that's how I found out. I found out hours after the fact. But yeah.
As a Texan fan, you continue to have your difficulties because, in fact, this year Joe and I are in the Iggy FF7s, and so I perhaps a little early, but I went and grabbed the Texan defense because we have to have a DST in this league, and I just figured, well, they're going to get to go against Indianapolis. They're going to go against, I guess, Tennessee and Jacksonville. Yeah, I want to be.
That's fair. All things considered, though, the Texans haven't really separated from the Colts. As bad as we've been, we've still been in the hunt. Like 2 years ago, we had basically a playing game.
Well, yeah, and the Colts have always had a good defense, and they've had a good pass defense. They've got great pass rushers. They're not an easy team to play. You've got Jonathan Taylor. You've got some really good wide receivers. They'll always compete, but still, except Joe Mixon just went down or is still out. So
that's true. Richardson's the key. I mean, if he can figure it out, I think we're in good shape. If he can't figure it out, maybe we luck out and get Arch. I don't know. I don't know the plan. It's not Daniel Jones. I can promise you that. It's not Daniel Jones. We got Riley Leonard behind him, I guess. Notre Dame.
Daniel Jones is not going to be this year, Sam Darnold.
No.
Who do you think is going to start? Who do you think it's going to be, Richardson, or do you think it's going to be Daniel Jones?
I do. News out of camp is that it's Richardson. I know a lot of the national media is saying it's close. But when you look at the local reporters, it's not close right now. It's been Richardson. He's actually stacking some days together and finding consistency. So I think it's going to be Richardson. I think you have to start him because if you start Daniel Jones, if Richardson comes in and he's bad, you can't go back to Daniel Jones. I think you got to start Richardson. If he's bad, you bring in Daniel Jones, tank the rest of the season. Hope you get somebody next year.
Yeah, that does.
Bill brings up they added talent at cornerback, and I just want to mention that same league, Rick, that FF7s with Iggy. I waited to take my defense, and that's who I grabbed, the Colts, for the same reasons you did. They get to play against those other teams, including your Houston Texans.
Well, I don't think that a lot of teams are going to be that anxious to be playing against the Houston.
That offensive line, they're licking their chops at that offensive line.
Well, they got the huge offensive tackle in the draft, so I actually don't think they're going to be as bad as offensive line as people remember from last year. But I think, and plus they've got a wide receiver core that's probably stacks up with most. I love Jaden Higgins. I think he's a clone of Nico Collins. And then Jalen Noel, who is replacing Tank Dell, although Tank Dell was supposedly running around at practice. So
not going to be Christian Kirk. He's not going to be in a slot.
Christian Kirk's going to be the wide receiver too, but he'll be the slot guy. But Jalen Dole is obviously the guy that they used a pretty high draft pick to bring him on board, and I think Kirk's just his 1 year filler.
Kirk is also injury prone. He misses time almost every year. So I mean, having you want to prepare for the future anyway. You got yourself a young franchise quarterback who took a step back last year. You want to do everything you can to get his confidence going again.
So why don't we run through some quick news on the league, since there's been some pieces of news that came out this past week. I guess I'll start off with the Cincinnati Bengals, and I know Bill's in the chat, so he's probably going to pipe up with this, but they cut Zach Moss, so it looks like it's Samaje Perine and very hyped rookie Taj Brooks, who will be backing up Chase Brown. I know a lot of people that drafted Brooks in their rookie drafts, so that must be more exciting to them. I don't think anyone was really expecting much out of Zach Moss, though. And then also,
he was decent last year. Like, I don't know why he gets the hate. Like, Zach Moss was decent. Like, before he got hurt, he was decent. He was decent with Indy. He was with us before last year when Taylor went down. That's kind of how the Bengals kind of signed him. And I'm glad they released him because I got a lot of Chase Brown. But, I mean, Zach Moss was solid.
Yeah, and I think Chase Brown is going to have a huge year. And I know that Joe's really been, really up on Chase Brown as well. And
yeah, I took him today, and I'm in a slow draft, a high-stakes slow draft, and I had started with the 4 pick. It's third round reversal. I started with Gibbs, and when it came back to me, Chase Brown was there. I would have taken Bowers. The only person I would have taken otherwise was Bowers, but he was picked a couple spots before, so I'm taking Chase Brown there, and then I'm, attacking wide receiver now from there on out.
While we're on that real quick, what are your thoughts on the 3RR craze? I feel like third round reversal is going a little bit crazy these days. Are you on board with that, or?
I like it. So the platform I play on is NFFC. They've been using it ever since the LaDainian Tomlinson days, where they did it to kind of just even the playing field from having, because he was such an advantage at the one spot. And they kind of stuck with it, and I like it.
Is there still that advantage that early, do you feel? Like, who's that guy now? I know it was McCaffrey for a while, but he's...
It adds what it does is it adds a wrinkle to the draft because they also use KDS to determine your draft spot, so you can kind of manipulate where you want to pick. So once the draft order is determined, now you kind of have an idea of which guys you might need to push up, which guys might fall. Like, it's people like. It doesn't matter where you're picking from. People tend to go get their guy more in third round reversal, I think, because I think
it does even it out for those who are in the back half of the.
So back-to-back picks. They get them back-to-back.
No, so we'll talk. So listen, we'll talk about this when we get into the front end of the draft and the back end of the draft and where the cliff falls off, which rounds are beneficial to which side of the draft board for each specific round, and then there's an actual cliff. And third round reversal kind of flips that so that it does make it a little. I think it does help balance off from, because the top 5 picks are the top 5 picks. You know what I mean? There is a tier gap. There is a gap between the top 5 and then the next 5, in my opinion.
As someone who always likes to draft early because I want to get one of the top 3 quarterbacks, I don't like it.
Well, in Superflex, this is single
round.
In Superflex, I don't know. I don't do enough Superflex third round reversal drafts to say. But in single quarterback third round reversal, it's not bad.
Yeah.
Because
you're not drafting quarterback.
It induces people to flip the board, which I like, because when people flip the board, it doesn't necessarily hurt them, but it creates value somewhere else on the board. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it makes for I don't want to say a chaotic draft, but it makes if drafting is your thing, then it favors you. If you know what I mean. If drafting is one of your elite skills as a fantasy manager, as opposed to managing throughout the season, you have to do that too. But it allows. It is a lot more adapting and adjusting and pivoting that goes down in a third round reversal draft, in my opinion.
Yeah, and like Pete says, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you're enjoying this. We can definitely benefit from you giving us that feedback.
So you want to get on to the Isaiah Likely news?
Sure. We could jump. We had one Cincinnati Bengal, but it was for us IDP.
No, go for it, Rick. Go for it.
Trey Hendrickson is looks like he's going to be signing as one of the top 5 defensive ends. That's going to make a big difference for the Bengals. They also just got their rookie defensive lineman Shamir Stewart signed. So, hopefully both of those are going to be able to help Cincinnati's defense. I don't know if that helps us in the fantasy world, since we rely heavily on the fact that the Bengals will need to pass a lot because, their defense is typically bad. But I know Cincinnati fans will be, happy that the defensive line is getting some help, much needed help.
They actually started to gel a little bit down the stretch last year. I think from week 12 on, they were actually a top 15 defense. They were right in the average range. They weren't top 10, but they were starting to put it together.
And they've got a pretty good linebacker in Logan Wilson. They've got I think Jordan Battles, their safety. They've got some talent on the defensive side. They just again having a huge rush makes a big difference. That's one of the reasons why the Texans are a pretty tough defense, is that they've got people coming at you from all over the defensive line. So
we have their defensive coordinator now. Lose with us in Indy, so we'll see what happens. I was hoping Trey would come along with him, but I don't know. They might pay him. I don't know if they're going to pay him yet. I know he's there, but I don't know if they can guarantee what he wants. We'll see what happens.
So, and then now, Joe, you can bring up Isaiah Likely.
I thought you went over that already. That's why I jumped right to it. But Isaiah Likely, broken bone in his foot. I saw that he might be ready by week 1. You got on here that says 6 weeks, so not sure. But either way, I'm sure they're not gonna use him heavily when initially when he comes back. So we got Charlie Kohler to step up in his place. I actually like Charlie Kohler. He does pretty good when he gets opportunity.
Yeah, he was drafted the same year as Likely. So they brought in, they double dipped into the tight end, I think, one round after the other. So just he hasn't had a chance because, of course, they've got Andrews and Likely, more of a pass receiver, I would guess. But Kohler's going to get a shot now, at least through preseason.
And we got Xavier Worthy placed in a concussion protocol, which completely contradicts what I said Tuesday night on the show. He rung his bell, and then he returned to practice. I got a nugget that he returned to practice that day and finished practice. So I mentioned that he probably cleared protocol because of that, but yesterday they put him into the protocol. So apparently he either had a setback or the symptoms weren't there initially. So he is in concussion protocol. I mean, it's early, so he'll probably be fine for week 1. But last week I was saying that I'm worried about Xavier Worthy moving up in drafts to the 3rd round, to the back end of the 3rd. I'm not sure if I want to pick him there because I do worry about his durability with an increased role. And if Rashee Rice is out and Hollywood Brown is banged up as well, he's gonna be touching the ball a lot, and that kind of worries me from a week-to-week standpoint. So I'm a little wary of Xavier Worthy with an increased role. I love him with Rashee Rice on the field. I don't think that he's gonna underperform in that situation. I think having Rashee Rice there will just make that offense all that much better, and Worthy will still be efficient when he touches the ball. I'm afraid of him getting an increased volume.
Yeah, he's not a big guy. He's a speedster, but he's so small, and it's hard to be durable. I know you saw some without Rice, last year due to the injury, but full season when everybody's going to kind of have their attention on him, definitely will be an uphill battle for him.
Definitely. And then one last IDP bit, rookie safety Maxwell Hairston from the Buffalo Bills went down with the knee injury. The initial concerns was ACL, but the MRI showed no ACL tear, so he dodged a bullet there. A lot of people, especially in IDP rookie drafts, we're drafting Hairston fairly early. So hopefully this is good news for those IDPers. So that goes through the news. And should we jump into roster construction and player discussion?
Yes. Yeah, we could do. Well, we got a couple of questions about roster construction, and then we can jump into some DFS stuff.
Awesome.
All right. Pierre, when you approach a draft, do you go in with a specific plan, or do you wait until other picks happen before your strategy? I mean, obviously, picks, if you're picking at the beginning of the draft, you have a pretty good idea of what you're going to start with.
Yeah.
But what's your just overall general approach?
So I try to have a plan. Again, I kind of learned a few years ago to pay attention to the scoring settings. And so I try to look in and see where I feel the points are going to be coming from, and then kind of do mocks and just kind of see how the ADPs are going to look. And then from there, have a plan on how I want to build, my roster. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes you have people in there taking Achane, number 1 overall. And you're like, okay, I didn't expect this. How can I swivel a little bit? But yeah, usually I like to have a game plan. My whole fantasy career, I've kind of been RB heavy. Like the zero RB stuff has always been insane to me. I get it. Like I know, like it became a passing league. It's not really a hammer, ground and pound type league anymore. But I still love having those great backs, like your Barkley type seasons last year, your McCaffreys, Derrick Henry's had great years. I try to get, as many opportunities to get one of those guys, because I feel like there's always going to be mid receivers that can have big years. Maybe they're number 2 and they kind of break out. Maybe the number 1 gets hurt. So that's always been my standpoint. I think a lot of people do it the opposite way. They're expecting that top RB to get hurt, and then you have their backup. So I get it from each side, but I'm an RB heavy guy, but I like to see the scoring settings first to make sure I don't jump the gun.
Yeah, I know Joe is like one of the first things he preaches is, read the rules and read the scoring so that, you know what you're doing before you even sit down and start thinking about players that you're interested in.
The starting lineup spots are very important as well, because if you only need 2 wide receivers, then you better be grabbing you some elite running back. Because that's the advantage. 3 wide receivers, then the playbook opens up a little bit more. So,
and it's funny because and I don't play a lot of underdog, but if you watch people, do a lot of underdog, they're drafting wide receivers like for the first 7 picks, and in part because of the worry about injury to the running backs, especially if you're investing heavily in that early draft pick. But I think last year we saw kind of a change to that. And I thought there were a lot of, whereas, there's always a concern over running back injury, but a couple of the wide receivers that were drafted early had injuries that were significant. And even in Houston, we had a couple of those injuries. So, and plus also, I think we're seeing a kind of a change in the running backs. We're seeing older running backs that are still, producing a lot. So whereas in the past there was like a 26, 27 age drop, and now I think with guys like Derrick Henry and Saquon and, other running backs that are, still continuing to produce at a high level. I think we're seeing people refocus more and having more running back heavy drafts like you're describing.
Well, you got to look at the fact that they can catch the ball too. Like that was my big thing with like the Scott Fish scoring this year. So everyone was focused on the 2.5, points per reception with the receivers. I'm like, there's running backs that catch the ball too. They're so hybrid. They're built differently. Like these aren't the same, old school running backs. These guys are big and ripped and in better shape themselves to prolong their careers. So all that kind of plays a part in it, I think.
I will also say this too: the top tier of running backs, like there's only like maybe it goes 10 deep, I would say. After that, it's you're 50-50 guy. You got a guy that that needs an injury to become a 3-down workhorse or to get to that 70% snap share. So sometimes if you're faced with an opportunity to grab two of them, like I was just talking about, I have Gibbs and then I came back with Chase Brown. Mm-hmm. I feel like if you can get the right two, it does, you know what I mean? I don't want to say that pay attention to bye weeks, but there's no conflicting bye weeks. Matchups make sense. Maybe they both have good playoff matchups, you know, going into the season. Obviously, the schedule can change as the season goes on. You don't know. There's Cinderella teams. There's teams that fall off a cliff that should have been doing better. So, you know, the strength of schedule can change. But as far as planning things, sometimes the two running back start is just called for. And I think it's been an option for the last couple of years based on the fact that that elite tier is so small. After that, it's all kind of, you know, variables come into play and you have to get a little bit lucky. Things have to bounce the right way throughout the season for some of those running backs to hit for you consistently. And obviously the zero running back strategy, you have to hit on a couple, but you have to plan accordingly. You have to have guys that you think are going to start the season off well, and then you have some of those second tier RB2s on their teams or rookie RBs that don't get more touches until the season's going along. So then you can convert over to those guys. You have to have a plan when you do your zero RB. So for me, when two elite running backs present themselves, I'll start with them, and then it just opens up your options the rest of the draft. You can grab that elite quarterback if you want. You can hammer away at wide receiver 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you can take, if that elite tight end falls, if Kittle falls, you're allowed more options. You don't have to worry about grabbing a running back in between, because you grab two real good ones early on, and you got to kind of lean into that as you go along in your first few rounds of the draft after that.
And you mentioned, tight ends, and like if Kittle falls for you, it really does seem like there's only 3 impact tight ends. So if you're not getting one of those 3 early on, now all of a sudden you're looking at, well, almost like a running back by committee instead of like a tight end by committee. Maybe you grab the
top guys of Bowers, McBride,
and Kittle. Those would be the top 3, and after that, I'm not sold on Laporta or Minnesota's tight end.
Is Kelsey washed now? Is that the?
So maybe Ingram's in that group. There's a tier of them, and after that, number 5 through number 25 might be the same guy.
Wait, Kelsey washed?
Kelsey and Andrews very enticing this year based on where they're going.
I don't think they're washed. I don't think they're washed. We'll see. Especially with the likely stuff with Andrews, that just opens another door.
You know what it is it's that tier. So like Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield are that tier for quarterback. So some drafts, Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield will float longer than usual. And that's why I feel like Andrews and Kelsey are floating as well, because they're part of that tier where you don't need to force that pick right away. You know what I mean? You don't want to be the shepherd and push up the tight end.
So quick question then, because we saw Bowers last year as a rookie. Do we like Loveland or Warren at all?
I like them both. Yes, I love them both where they're going 10th and 11th. That's a great 10th and 11th round target. If I'm grabbing one of them, you know who I'm getting later to be my secure week 1 piece, just in case that these guys don't pan out consistently, is I like to grab a guy like Hunter Henry later on to pair with Warren or a Colston Loveland.
Okay.
You want to pair those guys with a tight end that you can start week 1
Is your question from a dynasty point of view or a redraft point of view? Because from a redraft point of view,
It's redraft. Yeah, Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland are going to get some run.
I would say Hunter Henry is as good, if not better, than Loveland or Warren in the redraft draft.
But he's going rounds later, like 3 or 4 rounds later.
Yeah, I guess that's my point. Why spend the draft pick on Warren or Loveland when 4 or 5 rounds later you're getting
because you get that second half upside. Hunter Henry is Hunter Henry, and we know that Hunter Henry is injury prone as well. So does he make it through a whole season? We don't know that.
And I said it because it was the same thing with Bowers. Like Bowers wasn't going super early.
No, he was 7th round, 8th round, 7th round. Yeah. The rookie, you want that upside, Rick. You're picking the rookie for the upside.
Yeah, no, I've done plenty of rookie drafts because I mostly play dynasty, and Bowers was a 1st round draft pick in rookie drafts,
but not in redraft.
But not. That's why I was asking the question. Are you talking about dynasty?
Yeah,
because in dynasty, I would be going after Warren or a Loveland.
Gotcha.
But
I was talking redraft.
I'm, again, if I'm going in redraft, I'd just as soon go after Tucker Kraft.
Well, because you said Kittle was 3, so I assumed it was redraft. I assumed you wouldn't have Kittle 3 in a dynasty.
No. Yeah, I was But my point was that after those 3 in a redraft, I'm not drafting a tight end. In fact, I'm of the type, and
how many are you taking later on though? Are you doing 2 or 3?
A couple, because you have to cover for injuries and stuff like that. And it also depends on what sort of tight end premium. If there's a significant tight end premium, you're going to be more influenced to use a pick on even these mid-tier tight ends. But I'm of the belief that people complain about kickers. I think that it should be receivers, and tight ends are just thrown in with the rest of the wide receivers. And that way you don't have to start that tight end, because I don't particularly want to.
I was going to say, then they'll never get – Bowers would fall so far down because where I think he was overall number 33 last year. So he's flex number 33. So this is my argument sometimes taking him in the 2nd round. When like Chase Brown is like it's a really, really tough call. I know you're getting the positional advantage with Bowers, and he could build on what he did last year, and if not match. You know what I mean? Some people are talking regression, but he's got a better quarterback than he does last year. So I don't know if regression's in the cards for Bowers. So he's pretty safe of an early pick. I've been coming around. I've been going back and forth on how I feel about him all off season. I was on him early on. Then I was like, now he's steaming up too much. He was going at the beginning of the 1st round in some best ball drafts early, and I was like, that's way too high. But he's back in the middle of the 2nd round. I think if you can get him on the comeback in the middle of the 2nd round, back of the 2nd round, it's a pretty safe pick. But I'm with you, Rick. How about Njoku with Joe Flacco? There's another good round 9, round 10 tight end target.
Yeah, he's in that grouping of, I'll go ahead and wait and I'll look for an Njoku or, Evan Ingram or
Mason Taylor.
Mason Taylor. I think Kincaid's gonna have a bounce back year this year. I'm pretty high on Kincaid.
I'm hoping, because I have him as my one tight end in one of my leagues. So I'm like, but again, I waited late. And I think Brenton Strange is a guy that's probably in that grouping. But again, you're talking about tight ends that are in that, I don't know, 5 to 15 or 5 tight end 20 range, where if you would choose one of the tight ends above, someone like, I don't know, we were talking about Jaden Higgins, or maybe Luther Burden. Are you going to choose Luther Burden, or are you going to choose Loveland?
Loveland. I'm taking Loveland in that situation. this year. Not for dynasty either, or I guess.
The only thing I'm worried about is I don't think Cole Kmet just goes away. I don't know why. I don't think he just goes away, but we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you because Cole Kmet is a solid tight end, a solid receiving tight end. So
Cole Kmet is in line when he needs to be, though. They play him in line like almost half of the time.
And Loveland would be more the type that they'd move him around the field, including in the backfield, like the Johnny Smith example I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
But, that's also kind of like the idea of what they brought or what they're looking for from Burden, someone that they get the ball out to and he makes things happen. And he's going to make things happen a lot faster than, Colson Loveland will. So,
well, this is why I mentioned second half upside with Colston Loveland and rookie tight ends, because sometimes things shake out, injuries happen, and they get opportunity. Sometimes it takes a little bit of the season for that to happen. So, if you're taking Colston Loveland or Ty Warren, that Michael Pittman's injury is already not practicing every day. Josh Downs missed games. Jonathan Taylor goes down at any point, and DJ Giddens steps in, and they're like a complete passing team. I don't see, they're passing even more. So, when you draft these guys, you get yourself a bridge tight end, somebody that you can just plug in, like a Jonnu Smith or a Hunter Henry, or just somebody, to get you through until that breakout happens. And if the breakout never happens, then that's what you decided to punt tight end. So
and maybe Pierre couldn't talk more to this, but when I looked at both Loveland and Warren, especially in their college careers, Loveland was the better receiving tight end.
Yes.
That said,
I agree with that.
I think that Warren is going to have more of an impact in his rookie year than Loveland, because much like you were saying, the wide receivers, haven't always been healthy. I think Warren is also going to be given those sort of opportunities to, make things happen. They'll try to get him the ball in the flat.
Manufacture touches. Yep.
Well, up until last year, I thought Loveland was the top tight end. The year that Warren had, and just the different ways that Penn State used him, he felt like the top guy in the draft to me. So when the Bears took Loveland, as a Colts fan, I was like, please. I think it was the Cowboys had the pick right before him, and the commissioner said, Tyler. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And it was Guyton. I was like, whoo. And so I think Warren could have a big year. I like Loveland as well. I think he kind of gets discredited because Michigan quarterbacks were awful after JJ left.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Ben Johnson, he did a lot of great things in Detroit. So keep that in mind with him running the offense there in Chicago. But I still like my guy Steichen in Indy as well. We'll see what happens.
And I think Warren got a little bit of a ding from why he only had that 1 year, but I mean, he was playing against some other other tight ends in the years prior. So I don't know if you can necessarily, down him because, he only had the 1 year. I think he was coming up through a system that you played a lot of tight ends. So
I agree. They're like right behind Iowa. Iowa's like tight end.
Tight end college. Yeah. Well, we've, and I'm going to have to defer to the two of you because I've never played DFS. So I know we wanted to cover DFS tonight. So I'm just going to sit here, take notes, and let you two, hash it out for us.
All right, Pierre. So when it comes to DFS strategy, game selection, what's your approach? What is your approach? I know we talked about it in the chat a little bit. You were like, game selection is definitely key. I know that I gave up trying to win the $5, $10, $20 huge tournaments. You have to be like perfect all the way through, and it's really hard. So why don't you give us, some of your playbook? I guess.
Yeah, so that's what a lot of people go to. They go to the big, top of the chain prize, little entry fee. I think the best way to build a bankroll is through your 50-50s and your head-to-heads. You got a 50% chance in your 50-50s. You just got to finish top half, and you're doubling your money. You can do that every week. You're going to double your money, just finishing the top half. Head-to-heads is pretty similar. You got to beat one person. Your lineup just has to be better than theirs. And if you do, instead of like a $20 millionaire maker where you cash, you might win your $20 back because you're at the very bottom 20% that gets paid out. You're going to win $36 by just beating one person if you do a $20 head-to-head. If you do $21 head-to-heads, even if you lose some, you still might, still have bankroll for that next week if you have a rough week, because you might still beat 5 to 10 people where you get half your money back. So I'm really big on double up head-to-heads to kind of build a bankroll. And then where I take my shot at GPPs is more your smaller single entry, 3 entry max type contests. But not even the big ones of those. Like, so people will go single entry, but it's like 15,000 people in there. No, get into ones, 200, 500 people. You win those, you're still winning $300-400. That's good. That's good, right? If you're paying $5, you're winning $200-300. You can then maybe take a shot, that next week on a $27 one. And then one of the bigger contests that people miss is the satellites. There's so many satellites where you can pay a quarter up to $5, beat maybe 20 people, and get a big ticket to one of these big contests that you're chasing. If you got 19 people in a contest, you pay $5, you win first. It only pays out first. You get a ticket to $100 contest the next week. There's your shot. Don't just go blowing $100 here or there. You can take a couple shots, 4 or 5 times. You're still only spending $20 trying to win a $100 ticket. Once you get it, take advantage of that week. So quit doing the $3 $300,000 people in there hoping to win $100K. The odds of that happening are probably worse than hitting the Powerball.
So I'm new to this, so a lot of the terms you've mentioned were like right over my head. But I hear winning a couple hundreds of dollars, and my ears perked up, and I suspect others did as well. So maybe you can take a step back and kind of explain, kind of like what sort of DFS leagues you're talking about, or helps us new guys figure out where we're going to be able to
give Rick a breakdown on the salary. How you using a salary. Every player's got a salary, Rick. Each week it's different. If a player
where
has
am I playing this? This is, I'm even beyond that.
I primarily play in DraftKings. I think that's the most popular one.
Gotcha.
DraftKings.com or the app. FanDuel's out there. They're pretty popular, as well as Yahoo has tried to kind of get in the DFS game a little bit as well. When I say GPP, that's guaranteed prize pool. What that means is that regardless of whether it fills, it's going to pay out. The same structure. So let's say there's a contest with 1,500 people. By the time 1 o'clock comes around at kickoff, there's only 1,000 people in there. It's still going to pay out that pay structure. It's a guaranteed prize pool, but it only usually pays about 20 to 25% of the field. When I say 50-50 head-to-heads, that's basically paying half the field. So these are your contests where you just need to finish in the top half. So if there's 1,000 people in there, you need to finish, 500 or greater, and you're going to double your money. So you got a 50-50 chance of doubling your money. Head-to-heads, 1-1. So me and Joe play each other. Maybe it's, a $20 contest. There's going to be a little rate. So you're not going to get 40, but you'll get 36 because DraftKings is going to get 4 for hosting the contest.
Yeah.
But you only got to beat one person in those situations. So that's what GPP head-to-head, 50-50 is. And then DraftKings, again, is where I kind of do business. There's entry fees. So that's what you pay to get into the contest, whether it be a dime contest up to people pay thousands of dollar entry fees on some of these. And then the payout structure is going to be usually a top 20% payout. But they're really top heavy to where the top 5% in GPPs is really where all the money is. So, Joe, I know you mentioned the Millionaire Maker. That's a big one on DraftKings. First place, $1 million, $20 entry fee. But there's hundreds of thousands of people in that contest. if you don't finish, go ahead.
I was going to say, no, go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
I said, if you don't finish like top 10, you're really not getting much money there. Like the top 10 is going to pay out tremendously. It's like 1 million for first, but then second place jumps down to like 100,000. Then it goes like 20,000, 10,000. So for you to really get your money back that you really want to win on those big contests, you want to be in the top 5% versus the top 20% where you're kind of just breaking even though you might have a really great lineup. If you had that in a smaller contest with only 200 people, you might get first, win $300, but you're in a millionaire maker, you win 40 because you had so many different people you were up against.
Right. And that brings me, I'm going to go back to the second question. I'm going to jump to the third question because this pertains to the big tournaments.
Okay.
The importance of low-owned players. So, Rick, when you fill out your lineup and the games start, a percent will show up next to the player, and it'll say 33%. That means 33% of the contest, that player's on a team, in a lineup, in 33% of the contest. So you're sharing this guy with 33% of the people.
So you don't want to just go chalk.
Right.
Got
it. But you also want to be part of the chalk that goes off. You know what I mean? You don't want to not have the chalk when it goes ballistic.
Makes sense. Some differentiation. That's how you're going to win.
Yes.
So you have a salary cap. Obviously, everyone has a salary price. You got to stay within that cap when you build your roster. But when it comes to ownership, I think it's a little overblown to some extent because of what Joe just said. Like, if you have a guy that's 65% owned, for example, we've talked about Chase Brown a lot. When Zach Moss got hurt, Chase Brown's usage. Yeah. And if his price isn't climbing, you want to play him because if 60% of the people have Chase Brown and you try to get cute, you didn't play him because 60% of the people owned him, he goes for 5 fantasy points. You're now screwed because you're behind 60% of the field that have in your lineup. So you want to play the good chalk. You want to have that in there. But to Joe's point, you don't want to be all chalk because you're going to be starting to split the prize pools because everyone else is going to have those guys. But also, if some of those guys do bust, you now have a leg up on 60% of the field if you don't have them. So that's just something like receivers are really ones I really think about because as soon as like somebody gets hurt, everyone's like, oh, let's go with a cheap receiver. That doesn't really play out that well because you got an 80% guy that's $3K, for example, minimum salary, and he only gets you like 12. Yes, he gets you 4 times the value, but if you got a guy that's 4K that gets you 20, you're now passing all those 80% of the people that played the guy at 3K that was chalk because you went a little different.
So do you look for differentiations that might come up from like, he's going up against Pat Surtain, so maybe everyone else is going to still stay on CeeDee Lamb that week, but I'm going to use maybe, and Denver might not be the great example because, their second and third quarterbacks are also pretty good. But I'll look at someone who's not playing against, Surtain Island. Is that the way you're going to, or are there other factors
you could take a look at that? Like say if Dallas is playing not Denver, like you said, somebody that just has a top cornerback, maybe their second cornerback is injured and they're playing a bench guy now at cornerback. CeeDee Lamb's obviously going to get top coverage. Maybe George Pickens, take a look at his salary. See if they bumped it on you. If they didn't bump it on you, it might be worth a look that week. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This is what you're doing when you're building your lineup and you're trying to find value, plus factoring in matchups. But they will, like I said, if a play like CeeDee Lamb could be playing the Bengals one week and he'll be like 8,400, and then if he's playing Denver, he'll drop down to like 7,700. They adjust the salaries every week based on their projections.
But to your point, that happens as well. Like there'll be people that might be off of him because Pat Surtain is on the other side. Probably a good reason to be off of him. But if you feel like CD's not going to be stopped by Pat Surtain, you now have one of the best wide receivers in the NFL in your lineup that nobody else is playing because of that cornerback and matchup. If he goes off, boom, you're going to jump over someone. Maybe Jamar Chase is in a really good matchup, but it ends up being a T. Higgins week. So everyone's on Chase, you're on Lamb. Boom, you get Lamb. Maybe you have Higgins because everyone's on Chase. All of a sudden, you pass all those Chase lineups.
And so you do have to dive deeper into whether or not even, that particular cornerback shadows the wide receiver, or if he's only having to go against them half the game, depending on how often he's on left side versus right side. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, let's get into the importance of correlation when building your lineup. Not just stacking guys, but game correlation too. If like we just talked, Dallas is playing Cincinnati. It's in Dallas. It's indoors. Maybe somebody's hurt on both sides of the defense. You know that the over-under is 52.5, and you maybe you want to stack this game. Like you want to have Dallas players and Cincy players as your foundation of your lineup. So why don't you talk to us? Explain correlation. Yeah.
So I think correlation is the biggest part of success for GPPs. So your big tournaments. For one, I don't care how good you are in fantasy sports, fantasy football. It's hard to get 8 different things correct.
100%.
If you're picking players from all these different games and just trying to find the perfect 8 to score you 280 points, that's really hard to do. What's easier to do is what Joe just said. You see a game environment where you think a shootout's going to happen. So you're gonna stack them up. You might go, I know a big one's always, the Bills and Chiefs. You might go Josh Allen, Khalil Shakir, James Cook. On the other side, you're bringing back Worthy and Kelsey. That's 5 players right there that you have from one game. If you get those all right, if that game shoots out and those top players are involved, now you just got to get 3 individual pieces right after that. And you're, again, gaining points, whereas trying to get one-offs throughout your whole lineup, that's almost impossible to do. Some people do it. You look, you're like, there's no correlation here at all. How did this guy win all this money? But you want to, again, shoot for high totals at Joe State, and then shoot for those game environments where you think it's going to shoot out, where you can just kind of stack up that game. Because all you got to do really is get that one game right, and you're in really good shape when it comes to, the rest of your lineup. Another big thing, and I don't know if this is in the question part, I can't remember if it's there or not, but that 4 o'clock kickoff. A lot of people set their DFS lineup, and then they're done. That's it. Whatever happens, happens. When you look at getting leverage, if you have some guys in that 4 o'clock game, you might need to switch some things up. Let's say I'm in 10th place and I got Deebo Samuel when he's with the 49ers. They're usually a 4 o'clock kickoff. You can look at who's ahead of you. If everyone has Deebo, there's no point in me having Deebo. I can't catch those guys anymore. I might go to Ayuk because you can see who they have, who's already played, who's already kicked off, how much salary they have. If I'm guessing, okay, they all have Deebo, I might switch over to Ayuk just to see if I can catch all these guys in front of me. He may not be the best player in the best matchup, but I know I'm not winning any more money because of all the guys in front of me. So let me kind of maneuver, let me counter, let me put in, a late swap with Brain and Ayuk. Now let me see if I can catch these guys that are ahead of me. Ayuk outscores Deebo. So that's something that people don't really consider as well. They set it, they leave it, they watch the games, they have a good time. You got to pay attention if you need to swivel because of who's in front of you.
If you're sharing a guy with somebody and it's the only guys you have left and that person's already got more points than you.
You're drawing dead.
Oh, gee. Well, I tell you, it sounds too complicated. I thought that
it's hard, Rick. Like Pierre said, I'm a decent fantasy football player, but when it comes to DFS, I struggle. It's hard. It's hard to put that lineup together, man.
It also sounds like I'm gambling in a more general view, but I've gone to casinos with people that know how to play craps, and they're putting bets down, and I'm I think I'm imitating their bets, and they're winning money and I'm not. So there seems to be, like if Pierre called me up and said, this week we're going to do these players, he's going to win money and I'm not. So I know there's something a little bit more involved in
there is.
More study.
Again, that's why double ups and like single entries are so important, because a lot of those big contests, like the Millionaire Maker, there's 150 entries. You have guys in there that have 150 chances. You might have your one little bullet for $20. They got 150 bullets. So they have many different correlations. And you just got to hope that one gets lucky. Whereas a single entry, it's everyone's best lineup. Your best against whoever's other best. A lot of people put in cash game shells. When I say cash games, again, that's double up head to heads. That's a lot of your safe plays. That's your high own type of plays, because folks don't get as risky when they just have one lineup. They want the chalk, and then they want maybe one or two different people that might take them above everyone else that has chalk.
Boy, I tell you, this is still, it sounds super fun though. I have to admit that, I haven't looked into it at all. And so, but now you've piqued my interest.
Buy-ins are as low as a quarter, I believe, Rick. You can get in there, buddy.
Sounds like a plan. That sounds like my budget talking right now. I can do a quarter, but I know what will happen is it's like everything else. You start tasting a little bit, and all of a sudden, boom! I'll be there hundreds of dollars each week trying to sort out my.
Yeah, I always say to myself, not doing a lineup this week, not doing a lineup this week. Then 12:48 rolls around, and I'm like,
it's an addiction. It can be addicting for sure. But yeah, you got to have bankroll management. Don't go going into debt or having your wife kill you because you can't pay your mortgage. Bankroll management.
All right, so go ahead, Rick.
I was going to say, I think you had one more question, and it we touched on chalk, so this is a great one. I'll be listening and tell me.
So, Pierre, what when you're deciding what is good chalk and what is bad chalk, what are you looking at? What factors are you determining?
Matchup and opportunity. So,
what about player salary? Does that factor in at all, like the cost?
So usually no. If Justin Jefferson's 9,900, but he's in a game that has a 56-point total against an awful defense, let's say the Cincinnati Bengals last year, first part of the season, if he's chalk, you're still going to play, because all the data, again, a lot of people have optimizers and things like that where they just kind of put in their plays, put in their likes, hit a button. The computer spits out who the good plays are. That's how they become chalk. Like, you can't overthink that based off their salary. There was a time where Christian McCaffrey every single week was a chalk, and you had to play him because he'd get you 30 to 35 at 9K, 10K. You're still taking it. A lot of the bad chalk that comes into play are the cheaper guys, whether it be a backup running back that's really not that good, or one of the receivers as well. Really cheap receivers that's not that good, but so many people have gotten hurt. You're like, well, they're going to get all the opportunity, but they're not that good. They're not in a great matchup. Keep that in mind, because that's kind of how you want to separate it. There's going to be guys, good matchup, good player, going to have good usage. Great. There's going to be guys, not the great player, but he's the lead back, but he stinks. He might get 20 carries, 50 yards, no touchdowns, and why'd I play this guy? You would have never played him otherwise, but you played him because, Woody Marks, right, Rick? Joe Mixon's hurt. Nick Chubb's hurt. Oh, it's got to be Woody Marks. Well, maybe Woody Marks isn't that good. Texas O-line's not great.
Sorry, yeah. And if Arthur Smith is the coach, you just know he's going to look at your lineup. He's going to see your fantasy lineup, and he's just going to mess with you. I had a question, because it kind of falls into those, like the good chalk versus bad chalk. So like you have a team where Mason is everybody is talking about Mason, Jordan Mason. In fact, I guess he's the 1B. They're referring to him as the 1B now. Are you looking at the type of, production you're expecting? Like, gee, I want touchdowns. So all of a sudden, Cook was getting tons of touchdowns last year. Or is there like long running plays or long, pass plays that factor into this? Or is it, so what sort of players are you actually looking for?
I'm looking for volume. I want the volume. I want the usage. There's some bonuses for like yardage and big plays, but not to the point where it's going to really make a difference. You want guys that are going to get the usage, that are good. So like Chase Brown, we keep talking about Chase Brown. When Zach Moss went down, there was already a lot of people that were on Chase Brown. We knew Chase Brown was going to be probably a good player. So he became a chalk week after week because his salary was down because he was a backup. And as they slowly start to adjust, people just keep playing him because he's so cheap. Bucky Irving, Rashad White was the guy. A lot of people love Bucky going into last year. Soon as Bucky started getting opportunities, he started becoming chalk because his price just isn't keeping up with the production and the usage that he was getting.
So you're always trying to kind of stay ahead of whatever the price points are for that particular player.
Correct. And I think we all know, we play enough fantasy where we know who some of the up and coming guys are, who we think, look good in camp or was really good in college and we hope to get an opportunity. And we also know what Dare Gumbawale, he's probably not going to do, too much if he gets a chance. He might have one game, but
yeah,
these guys. So keep that in mind when they become chalk. Like, they weren't good then. They're not going to be good now. They got 1 week where they're the main guy.
That sounds smart. And Seattle running backs, since Kenneth Walker, tons of production, but a lot of people like Zach. So
he's a tough one because when he's healthy, he doesn't really get pass volume. He can get you 3 touchdowns, but if they get behind in the game, you're kind of screwed with Ken Walker, especially around the salary that he's at.
Yeah,
when he went down,
his salary is going to be higher than Charbonnet for sure.
Yeah. But when he goes down, those first few weeks, Charbonnet, that's it.
Got it. Well, this has been great. I know we went longer, so I appreciate you being,
no problem.
Patient with your time and sharing all this great information, especially on DFS, and the fact that you and Joe could, talk about something that I have no clue about. So that made my part of the job a lot easier.
Well, I hope you learned a little bit, Rick, because it is fun.
It definitely did. And it also
it
piqued my interest to want to be able to do it. But so, Pierre, really thanks for being on the show. It's been great to get a chance to meet you. We've played in a couple of leagues together, and so it's great to actually, talk with you and learn more about you as a person. And also, appreciated your approaches to, both redraft and especially on DFS. Can you remind us where people can find you when they're looking for your content and to be able to connect up with you?
Absolutely. So on Twitter /X, whatever you want to call it there, got it down here at Peewee31. Over at Twitter as well as Fantasy Impact Today. That's FI Today with a little underscore. You can find me there. If you have some faith journeys that you're looking at Finding Faith Pod over on Twitter. We're on all the platforms, both the podcast for Fantasy Impact Today and the Finding Faith Pod, Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeart, you name it. So that's where we're at. Appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a pleasure. Well wishes, best of luck for your future episodes. You guys are doing great work here.
I appreciate that. And Joe, why don't you tell us where we're going to be next Thursday?
Next Thursday, we will be at the Fantasy Football Expo.
So no show next Thursday.
No show. If you want to come see us on Sunday, we are going to be at booth 32 at the Expo from 10 to 4 on Sunday. We're going to have T-shirts, pins, stickers, swag, all the good stuff. Kala's got an interview set up with Andy Barons. This talks about, I told Rick if he wanted to interview somebody, we could do something. Maybe we'll do next week's Thursday Checkdown on that Sunday at the booth. We'll see. Maybe we'll, not a full show, but maybe we'll, do a couple of interviews. People can talk about their expo experience and on the TSA channel, and we'll have fun with it that way. So
awesome. And what other shows are on the TSA network?
Tomorrow night we got Beyond the Beats with Kala. I don't have a guest name written down, so I won't be able to tell you who she has on. But the show is about Zumba instructors and people in the fitness industry, and these are all people that had an influence on Kala, positive influence. It's a positive energy show. They come on, they share their journey, how they became instructors. It's actually a really interesting show. I've been producing it the last couple of weeks, and I enjoy being backstage for it and watching it. So it's pretty good. Kala does good interviews. So, and then Sunday night, Aces Up podcast is back for another poker episode. We're going to have Drew Davenport. He runs the poker tournament at the Expo. We're going to talk all about that. And we're also going to have TSA's own Ronnie Evans on. He was the winner of the poker tournament last year. I'm not sure if he's going to win again this year because I'm playing this year. So,
so Ronnie's going to use artificial intelligence, and you don't have a chance.
You're probably right about that because I play intuitively, so that means I'll make a mistake and Ronnie will beat me at some point. No. Looking forward to the Expo in itself. That's where we'll be next week. I don't know if are we gonna have a Monday. I think actually Monday, I believe me, Iggy, and JC are going on Bob Lung's podcast to talk about the Expo itself.
Big time.
And then I believe Kala has a show on Wednesday that week as well for the Game Changes.
Okay. And JR, is he doing one of his hoop shows?
Is he coming back this week? I didn't see anything about that. I mean, I haven't looked at the group chat today because I've been busy. But is JR back this week?
I think he's doing a show on Sunday with the
Sunday morning, right?
Yeah, Sunday mornings. And JR is one of the best basketball analysts that I've seen. So please keep an eye out for his morning show talking about basketball off season, and of course a lot of excitement as we start getting towards that season again. And I think you pretty much covered it all.
I did. I mean, Aces Up has a Tuesday episode as well, but the guests aren't confirmed yet. I'm still working on a third guest, so I'm not going to announce that yet. But there is a fantasy football show on Tuesday night as well.
So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's it. I want to thank the chat, everybody that tuned in live, anybody that tunes in afterwards. Hit the like button, go over to YouTube, subscribe to the Sports Affiliation if you haven't yet. Yeah, definitely subscribe. We got big plans for the season throughout the season. We're going to have shows almost every day, and we got a lot. Like I said, I'm excited about the upcoming season for us.
Awesome. And again, thanks, Pierre, for being such a great guest, and hopefully we'll get you back on here again.
Thanks. It was a great time. Pleasure working with you guys.
Awesome.
We're going to get out of here. We're out of here.
I think we're going to go get a chance to eat some dinner now. So thanks, everyone, for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you during the rest of the week.